It does look like every Monday when we come around right here to bring you the newsroom, there's always a tragedy before Monday. Last week it was building collapse. This time around, it's a terrible stampede in Port Harcourt that has left at least 31 persons dead. And if you've been following politics, not just the Champions League of last weekend, you already know that the presidential primaries of the People's Democratic Party took place over the weekend. There was a whole lot of twists and turns. I'm quite sure some of you did not really see some of the outcomes coming. Well, these issues will get us talking on another bumper edition of the Newsroom, a program brought to you by the Newsroom of Nigeria Info, where we take a critical look at some of the big stories that have happened in the course of the week. My name is Ufuoma Egbamuno. It's good to be here. Not good news, but still good to be here. And I've got Aghogho Oboh, who's been working round the clock since 1 p.m. or is it 12 o'clock? I'm not sure again.
You know, we have Ufuoma, we have longer days and shorter nights. So it's a compensation for us that you're going to work longer days now.
Aghogho is threatening me already. Yeah, I'm going to be doing a lot. But you, Sheriff, and Sandra Ezekwesili, all of you set me up to do work that I did not plan for. But anyway, guys, it's good to be here. It was not a good weekend, to be very honest. I remember waking up Saturday morning and a very good friend of mine sent me a message to say, hey, Ufuoma, you guys will probably need to send a reporter to Polo Club in Port Harcourt. Something is happening. People are dead. And I was like, I don't get what exactly. She said it was a church program and all of that, but she did not have all of the details. So quickly, I reached my colleague, the news manager out there in Port Harcourt, and Ogbevire, who actually confirmed that she had sent a reporter out there, and of course that the feelers they were getting was that it was not good. Well, at the end of the day, we now know that what was supposed to be a good gesture, turned out to be a tragedy, as over 30 persons were killed, 31 we hear. It was supposed to be a day for them to, get basic amenities like foodstuffs, like clothes and shoes, and a free, program organized by the King's Assembly out there in Port Harcourt. But it didn't turn out particularly well. And let's take a listen to the father of one of the victims. I heard this interview on that Saturday afternoon, and it was heartbreaking. I read the news Sunday morning and played it, and trust me, it was also heartbreaking. And since the whole day we've been playing it, I think we just played it in our 6 o'clock news, but just take a listen to it again as the father described exactly what happened.
We went for a church program. The gate was locked from that early morning we went there until crowd became too much. As the crowd became too much, that nowhere for vehicles to pass along the major road. That was when they opened the gate. Situation like that, crowds want to float in because the gate is open. Everyone wants to go inside. But we were in the front of the gate before they opened it. So people from the back, based on the rush, started pushing and started matching people and jumping on top of people. We were on the ground, we were marching on them, and unfortunately, my son, they marched him till he's dead. What has happened. My son is gone and I will not see him again till God calls us. What I'm only calling now is for justice, for the state government to intervene in this matter and investigate what caused this. What I need is justice for my son. I am the father. I have no one to run to.
That was that heartbreaking interview from Oji Samuel, who was speaking about his 5-year-old son, Delight Samuel, who lost his life. We hear, about 10 children of that same age, also lost their lives in that incident. As we speak, we can tell you that the River State Commissioner of Police, Abubakar Friday, has directed that investigations should be carried out. The governor of the state, Nyesom Wike, has also directed that investigations should be carried out. Do we have a reporter right now? Joining us all the way from Port Harcourt is Emmanuel Chidera Madabuchi, a reporter who covered that story on Saturday. Emmanuel, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you. Good evening.
Emmanuel, a very good evening to you. How is Port Harcourt this evening?
Port Harcourt is fine, just a little bit rainy today. It's raining today, so everywhere is cold and flooded. As
usual, Port Harcourt and rains. Anyway, quickly, Emmanuel, you were at the scene that Saturday morning. What has the King's Assembly said about the incident? What have they actually said since Saturday?
Okay, they released a statement on Saturday evening acknowledging the event, said that it has been reported to the police. So they said they are providing emergency medical services to those affected. And they're also tracking and engaging the affected families to provide support for them. They also released an emergency phone line for inquiries in case families of the victim want to contact the church.
Okay, but let me ask you, because I'm not sure I got the real confirmation. Did the service that was supposed to hold, did it eventually hold after the tragedy?
No, the program was cancelled. They didn't hold it again. It was cancelled.
Okay, so let me ask you, you were at the scene, Polo Club, very popular place in GRA Port Harcourt. What was it like when you actually arrived at the scene that Saturday morning?
When I arrived there, it was crowded. The whole place was jam-packed with persons. It was crowded. The medical service, the medical emergency service, they were taking out somebody down to the military hospital. More like people were confused. They were just running up and down the place.
Okay. You also spoke to, of course, we just played that interview, the middle-aged man who lost his 5-year-old son. Were you able to speak to other family members or other persons who lost their family members?
Yes, I spoke to a lady who lost her only daughter.
Her only daughter?
Yes.
My word. Go ahead. What did she say?
She narrated how this thing happened, gain access into the venue when there was a rush. Then everybody was trying to get in at the same time, trying to come out. Persons were trying to come out. The security men were trying to hold them, so they overpowered the security men. In the process, some people fell, and the other stepped upon them, trying to get inside. So in the process, she couldn't find her daughter again. It was later, after when they were trying to rescue up the persons there, she now saw that her daughter was dead and they were taking her to the military hospital.
Okay, but my colleague Oboh has some questions for you, Emmanuel.
All right, so right, Emmanuel. So I mean, this is a very troubling times I can imagine for everyone who's affected by this, and our hearts go out to everyone involved. But help us understand. There have been reactions from the state government. We hear that there are investigations going into what is happening. Has the police investigating with the mind of going to prosecute anyone who's been found liable for this? Have you heard anything from the side of the police yet in terms of prosecution?
Okay, the state government said they will set up a probe panel to investigate the incident and release details on what transpired. Same with the police. They say investigations are still ongoing. That they would prosecute whoever is found wanting in the incident.
And something just came across, I understand this event's been happening since 2014, this benevolence outreach. So in your conversations with those who were very familiar with this event, did it appear in any way that the organizers were overwhelmed by what happened this year compared to previous years?
Yeah, for this year, they were overwhelmed, unlike the previous year. The previous year, they did it in their church premises. But this year, they decided to take it to an open field to accommodate more persons. So I think the numbers of persons who attended this year were much.
Okay, let's also get one thing straight, and we really need to, get this picture clearly. This stampede actually happened before the event started, or the event had started already before it happened?
It started before the event started. The event was supposed to be by 8 a.m. in the morning, but the stampede happened around 5:30 to 6.
My word.
Very early in the morning.
Okay, I guess we would have to leave it at that. Emmanuel Chidera is our correspondent, Nigerian info correspondent out there in Port Harcourt. Thank you very much for joining us on the newsroom. Aghogho, just before we move on to our next topic of discussion on the show this evening, which has got to do with politics. We've seen reactions from the president. The governor of the state, Nyesom Wike, has reacted, commiserated with the families. The former governor, Rotimi Amechi, has also commiserated with the families. But the big picture here is the fact that there's poverty in the land, because to a large extent, it's why people would allow their 5-year-old children to go for such an activity.
Absolutely. In fact, the general reaction we've been getting on the station following this story, all the different shows, even during Hard Facts, people just pointed to this is a dashboard view of the state of hunger in the country. That if you'd have to take your entire family to go and pick food, freebies at a benevolence event, it means ordinarily you won't have them there in the first instance.
Exactly.
It's just food. It shouldn't be there even in the first instance, but it shows you exactly how things have really gone. And a lot of stick for the organizers too, because from Emmanuel here, you see that they've been doing this previously within the church premises. And because of this good deed, like the former governor of Rivers State said, they decided to move outside the venue. They didn't provide the necessary stop gaps you should have. They got overwhelmed, obviously.
Okay, well, we will still follow the story. It's a developing story, so obviously our colleagues out there in Port Harcourt will keep giving us updates as to what exactly is happening, and of course, when we get latest thoughts from the police or the state government as it concerns this particular one. That will be our cue to move on to our second story on the show today, and of course it's got to do with politics. If you were in planet Mars or planet Jupiter, well, let me just explain to you what happened over the weekend. The opposition party, the People's Democratic Party, held their presidential primaries, and of course even while the Champions League was ongoing, a lot of us were actually watching what was going on at the main bowl of the National Stadium in actually it's the MKO Abiola Stadium, that's what it's called right now. And this came after former vice presidential candidate Peter Obi had left the party just a few days after. But in all, former vice president Atiku Abubakar emerged as the presidential candidate of the party, beating his closest rival, Nyesom Wike of Rivers State, by 371 votes to 237. But of course, the big thing that happened was, of course, what a lot of persons maybe did not see coming. The governor of Sokoto State, Aminu Tambuwal, stepping down and endorsing the former vice president. Well, we've got two persons joining us on the show this evening. We've got a member of the People's Democratic Party who's joining us via Skype, Ose Aneni. Ose, a very good evening to you. Can you hear us?
I can.
Okay, perfect. Really, really perfect. And of course, we have the Director of Voter Education and Publicity at the Independent National Electoral Commission, Ayodele Aluko, joining us via the phone. A very good evening to you, sir. Hello, can you hear us? Okay, we'll try to get that connection once again. But Osa is here, so let's start with him. Osa, I'll start by asking what was your general feeling, and your thoughts about the primaries of your party that took place over the weekend.
Yeah, as always, it's a pleasure to join you guys. regarding the primaries, I think I was impressed really by the organization of it. I was also impressed by the level of excitement generated by the delegates. We were at the venue from as early as 7 a.m. and we stayed till well past 2 a.m. And the enthusiasm and excitement, it never dropped. So I think for me, if you want to start taking a temperature or reading of what direction the polity is going, I think the enthusiasm we saw at the venue, even with the emergence of His Excellency Abubakar Atiku, it was quite encouraging. It was a transparent, free, fair, credible process. There wasn't any rancor or contestation of the results. It was really, really transparent. I was an electoral officer. We made sure that the process was almost unimpeachable.
Wow.
And outside the politicking that might have gone on, the process itself presented who I think was the majority candidate of the People's Democratic Party.
Okay, for a second, we actually had the INEC official, but it looked like he had dropped the call. We're still trying to, of course, establish communication with the Director of Voter Education and Publicity at the Independent National Electoral Commission, Ayodele Aluko. But before he joins us, Ose, let's also talk about that move. It's got a lot of persons talking now. Some persons have accused the governor of Sokoto State of betrayal. Of course, going back to 4 years ago when Nyesom Wike, was his chief backer. Some have also said, "Oh, great move, by Tambuwal, more or less like he's invested a lot of currency for the future." But tell us, did you see that coming? It looked like it was a smart move, but give us a bit of an insider information how that happened and if it was what tilted it to Atiku's favor.
So I think surprisingly, to my mind at least, the winner of this whole contest was the governor of Rivers State, Nyesom Wike.
Okay, how?
Again, going into the primaries, he was clearly the favorite to win. I don't know how he managed to pull it off. I recall when the aspirants were doing a tour of the stadium and Wike did his tour, the electricity and energy he generated across the delegates from every single state was mind-blowing.
Wow.
We were seeing delegates from Kano, from Katsina, from Edo State, from Rivers, all over the stadium erupted when he was making his tour. So very early on, we sensed that he was going to get the ticket. If you want to know what had happened behind the scenes, the night before the primaries, there was a very hard-nosed conversation about the fact and the realization that Governor Wike was going to win this contest if some of the northern aspirants pursue their individual aspirations. And regardless of what you feel about, the idea of, these interests coming together to stop Governor Nyesom Wike, that's what happened. There was resistance to it. I think the INEC chairman is trying to join us.
Yes, he is. Sorry, also we'll come back to you, but of course, this is our cue to welcome the Director of Voter Education and Publicity at INEC, Ayodele Aluko. A very good evening to you, sir.
Yeah, good evening. Thanks for having me.
We appreciate the fact that you are able to join us despite all of the issues. So quickly, let me ask you, some political parties, including, of course, the PDP, have been conducting their primaries. What would you say about the process so far? Free, fair, credible?
Hello? Hello?
Did you hear the question?
It's not clear, really. It's not clear.
Okay, let me take it again. I said that some political parties... Oh dear. So sometimes these things happen when you're trying to have this kind of conversations. But I'll say thank you for being patient. And of course, let's. You were talking about how the meeting held the previous night because it was looking like Wike was going to take the day. Quickly wrap up on that.
Yes, so I think the initial approaches were unsuccessful, but it's obvious it became.
Can you hear us now, Mr. Ayodele?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, also just put a pause on that answer. We'll come to that in a bit. This is 99.3 Nigeria Info. This is the newsroom, where, of course, we'll take a review of some of the big stories that have happened in the previous week. Mr. Ayodele, I was asking some political parties have been carrying out their primaries. What would you say about what you've seen so far? Is it free? Has it been fair? Has it been credible?
Well, it's part of the duty of INEC to monitor the primaries of political parties, but the Commission has not issued any statement about the assessment of the parties, about the conduct, because we have a department that monitors that, election and party monitoring. And until the Commission speaks, I will not say anything about the primaries for now. What is important for us, you know the activity we are actually having now, the continuous voter registration, which we closed the online registration today. And then we said by the end of June, the whole registration will end. I think that's what I really want to comment about. The issue of party primaries, the Commission has not spoken about it. And I'll wait for my Commission to speak before I say anything.
Okay, that's would actually have to wait, for the Commission to actually speak. But let's talk about the extension that has been granted to the political parties. Could you explain to us? I know some of the political, or most of the political parties asked for it, but since you're an INEC official, could you just give us a brief understanding of what went into INEC making that decision?
No, the Inter-Party Advisory Council, the one we call IPAC, came with political parties that particular day, led by their chairman, Dr. Sani Yabaji.
Yabaji, yeah.
And yes, and they looked at the timetable. They saw it. There's a place, about 6 days extension, something like that. This is a period during which they are supposed to actually submit the list of during which they are supposed to submit the list of candidates. During which they are supposed to start uploading on the portal, and they asked for that period because that period nothing really was supposed to really happen so much. It's like a free period. And they came to ask for that period to allow them to have that period to be able to also conduct their primaries. And of course, there's no harm done, no shift in timetable, no shift in the election table, no election itinerary, nothing. So the Commission just said, okay, no harm. So the timetable, no problem at all. So the Commission said they could go ahead and have those days. They were like 3 days actually. So okay. There's no need to speculate on anything. No problem at all.
Okay, but I've also heard some members of the People's Democratic Party, the PDP, alleging that this extension more or less is geared towards favoring the ruling party, the APC, because they have not been able to do what they are supposed to do. What would you say to that allegation?
No, I don't think it's like that. The Commission is non-partisan. We don't favor any party over the other. There are 18 political parties in the country, and for us, they are all equal. We treat them as equals. We don't favor anyone over the other. If there's any allegations to that effect, it's just the feelings of those who are saying it. But I can say categorically that there's nothing like that. This particular commission is the best we have had in this country. We are completely independent. And we don't favor any party over the other. We will never do so. Never do so.
Right. So Mr. Aluko, talking about deadlines also too, we have the deadline you mentioned, which is for the online pre-registration, which is expiring already. And then we have the one which will happen at the end of next month, which is for the physical registration. Do you think there will be an extension in the online registration, or because some people have complained they haven't had the opportunity? But you see the back end. Let us help us understand what is happening at the back end.
We need to remind Nigerians that this particular registration started June 20 last year. June last year to June this year, 1 whole year. And I think anybody that has not taken advantage of the opportunities we have given we still have a whole month. We still have the whole month of June. From tomorrow is there, June 1 to June 30. So people should take advantage of these opportunities to be able to do what they need to do. and do not start thinking that there will be an extension. People, those who are involved, those who are affected, those who have not registered before, those who need to transfer their registration, those who want a replacement of their spoiled cards, and those who want to correct their names. Maybe they are misspelled or their data not completely captured or that sort of thing, should take advantage of the 1 month remaining. Nobody should be waiting for an extension that may not come.
But if you would concede, a bit of extension to the political parties, would it not also be fair to concede some extension, to Nigerians who possibly would want to take advantage of that extension?
That exists solely in the realms of speculation. Let us not speculate now. We have this program that will terminate June 30. That is the 30th day of June. Let us wait till then. But I don't think there's any need for any extension. Any Nigerian that has not taken advantage of this, that's affected by what we have laid down, what we have said, should please use the opportunity to do so. We want people who have not registered to register. We want people who want to transfer their registration to new places where they have moved to please do so. Those who have their cards spoiled or lost should please apply for new cards. So we want people to take advantage of this particular period. For 1 year now, we've done 9 months, remaining only 1 month. I don't think there is need to start talking about extension now. 1 month is enough for people who have not done so to please do so. And we must always remind ourselves, it's not a general registration. We're not registering all eligible voters all over again. No, we have a register already. We are only updating that register to accommodate new persons and make corrections where necessary.
Very quickly, because a number of our listeners have asked questions about the collection of the cards that are ready for them. So clarify for us what cards are ready and what cards are not ready.
We told Nigerians that those who registered from when we started, as of June 20 last year to end of December last year, when we closed for six months, we produced those cards, and those cards are available in our offices in the local government areas. Those who registered from the beginning of this year up to this time, and those who register up to the end of June, we will produce their cards afterwards, and then we'll let them know when the cards are ready so that they can collect. And we are asking those whose cards we have produced to please collect them.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Ayodele Aluko, INEC Director of Voter Education and Publicity, who's just joined us. Let's come back to Ose Neni, the PDP member who has been talking to us about all the things that happen in Abuja. I missed being in Abuja, by the way. Ose, there have been allegations of dollars flowing everywhere, and in fact, I did see my good friend Kunle Lawal, put out on Twitter a mini guide as how to become a delegate for next. Maybe I'll resign from Nigeria Info and try to go contest and become a delegate from my ward. Well, that would mean I have to go back to Delta State. I don't know if that's going to work out now. But also quickly, let's talk about your party. We've seen some moves since yesterday from your candidate right now, Atiku. Today he met with Governor Nyesom Wike. I think yesterday he met with Tambuwal. He's been meeting some of his opponents and party stakeholders. However, some persons, some voices, have talked about the fact that, hey, this thing has to come to the South. Middle Belt Forum, Afenifere, Ohanese, some of these groups who have been vociferous in their comments over the last couple of months have said, hey, electing Atiku is an affront on the people from southern Nigeria. You are from the South. You are from Edo State. What do you say to those voices that, to be honest, you can't necessarily rule away?
So before I answer that really important question, I just want to comment on what the INEC representative said.
Yeah.
In the first instance, he must realize that you can't move the goalposts or change the rules in the middle of the match. He says no one was affected, and that's patently false. And the PDP had marshaled out its own timetable based on the INEC schedule. And we were unable to move our our primaries because we had invested so much time and resources in organizing it based on the INEC timetable. The APC hadn't. The only party that majorly benefits from this shift is the APC.
But then again, sorry to cut you, the Labour Party actually held their presidential primaries today. So you might not necessarily agree that it had to do with just the APC. Come to think of it, the days that it was extended were actually, quote unquote, 3 days. That nothing, the main date has not changed, 9th, 10th or thereabout. It hasn't really changed. So would you say it's about changing goalposts?
It is, exactly, because there was a fixed date for the conduct of primaries and then a fixed date for the submission of names. And, you know, the APC and the PDP are the major political parties in the country. So when the APC does its primaries, it's going to be a spectacle. When the PDP it was a national event. All the channels were transmitting it. For the Labour Party that did yesterday, it was a press release that we received, basically. And what
it was on TV. It was on TV, and then at least I saw it on TV.
It wasn't a spectacle.
I can concede that to you, that it wasn't necessarily a spectacle.
So what INEC have done is giving the ruling party 1 more week to look at what the PDP has done and respond to us directly. And yes, I concede that this INEC has done more than most in advancing the integrity of our electoral process. Yes, I concede that the INEC chairman is probably the best INEC chairman we've seen since 1999. I concede all of that.
Better than Jega?
Yes, better than Jega, of course.
Okay.
But INEC must concede that what they have done, even if it was done in good faith, you know, leaves a foul taste in the mouth. I don't want to. I'm happy to give them the benefit of the doubt, but they cannot be changing the rules in the middle of the game. And you made a very good point. If you are going to concede to political parties, you must then concede to disenfranchised Nigerians who have been unable to register. Registration, I think, online registration closes today or tomorrow.
Today?
And then by the 30th of June, you can no longer register. 8 months before February elections next year. It makes no sense. Even by INEC's own standard, they have only registered 29% of the target they set for themselves. There's no reason why they have fixed this date of June 30th. They are going to disenfranchise millions of Nigerians. Even if we consider people are not going to register for APC or PDP, the fact that we have a resurgent Labour Party with a stellar candidate in Peter Obi, a lot of people will want to get involved in the process simply because they have maybe a candidate that they feel they want to vote for. And INEC is going to deny millions of Nigerians that opportunity who may want to vote for the APC, for the PDP, or for Labour. And I think more than anything else, that is almost criminal. The decision to stop registration or close registration almost a year before the general elections.
Okay, my colleague Aghogho has a question for you before I get into 1 or 2 other questions that I have for you. Aghogho.
Right. Many of the talking points, you say, has moved around not just the emergence of Atiku Abubakar, but one talking point people have asked is the choice of his vice president. People say it's a bit early because you haven't had the APC have its own primary yet, but it's something people are thinking about. I don't know what you have. Maybe you have some of the scoop before we do have anything.
I mean, my again, just writing on the question your colleague asked about, what I felt about, power leaving the south and going to the north in an Atiku candidacy. Again, I know I worked with the Atiku campaign in 2019. I know his plans. I know his present plans. He has a 5-point agenda to focus on uniting the country, security, education, restructuring, and rebuilding our broken economy. So he's fit for purpose. There's no, issues with that. But everyone must realize that just because of the nature of Nigeria, power should rotate around its constituent parts. not just even to the south, maybe micro-zoning to the southeast. So if you're asking me specifically, I'm from the south, I'm from Edo State, who would I like to see emerge as Atiku's vice presidential candidate? I'll be looking for a candidate who brings electoral value. I'll be looking for a candidate who can fight. I'll look for a candidate who has a track record of performance in bridging the gaps that we have in, maybe for instance, in infrastructure. And the one candidate that will stand out would be, without a shadow of a doubt, would be Governor Nation Wike from Rivers State. Even the campaign he ran leading up to the primaries was full of energy and bite. And I think going into the general elections against what will surely be a desperate APC, you need a strong character in Nation Wike to back up whatever plans and value our main candidate, His Excellency Abubakar Atiku, brings to the table.
Let's now talk about that. Many have argued, even though our time is almost coming to an end, but many have argued that these two personalities might not necessarily work. An Atiku strong-willed, a Wike strong-willed. Some have suggested, or some have said, the governor of Delta State, Okowa, who you could argue fits into some of the bills you've mentioned. Maybe not as vociferous as a Wike, but he's got track record, a senator, a governor. You could say he's got electoral value. Delta State, one of the big states in the South. How about him? And do you think that the strong-willed characters of these two personalities, Wike and Atiku, would definitely work for the PDP?
I would remind you of probably Nigeria's best period. It was between 1999 and 2007, where we had the strong will of Obasanjo and the strong will of His Excellency Abubakar Atiku. And yes, there were clashes, but ultimately we saw these strong wills drive Nigeria from the doldrums that the military had left into becoming one of the fastest growing economies in the world. So I'm not personally concerned about two strong wills butting heads. The vice presidential seat is literally a spare wheel. And I don't see, if Governor Wike is picked, I don't see him upstaging an Atiku, who, like I said, has developed and has marshaled out clear plans to bring Nigeria back from the pits we currently are in.
Quickly, also, you've got 1 minute to respond to this. I cannot have you on the show without talking about the big elephant in the room. Your 2019 vice presidential candidate, Peter Oboh, who shockingly, some would say, left your party a few days to the primaries. Many believe he is a dark horse, and that he could, take a chunk of the votes that maybe ordinarily would have gone to the APC or the PDP. What do you make of his emergence as the LP presidential candidate?
I think his departure was a great loss, or is a great loss to the party, to the PDP. I think for Nigeria, it's also a great loss because I see no routes for him to get to the presidency. You made a point about taking a bite out of votes from the APC or the PDP. You have ruling party votes and you have opposition party votes. The bites will be taken out will be from the PDP. I really don't understand because he up to this point, I've seen him as a very astute, calculating politician. I don't see how this decision benefits him. Even his choice of Labour as a political party, it's at best a social democratic party, at worst it's a purely capitalist socialist party. And Peter Oboh represents, the purest form of capitalism you could find in politics. So it's a ideological dissonance. There were many other options he could have picked. I don't know why he chose Labour. I know, for instance, Labour is already debating the decision to give their ticket to him because he doesn't represent their values. So I think he will struggle. Maybe personally he will develop his brand, but I don't think he adds much to the national conversation going into the 2023 general elections.
All right, Osaneni would have to leave it here. Our time is fast spent. Osaneni is a member of the People's Democratic Party. No time I would have asked him about his own elections. Unfortunately, he lost the primaries for the House of Reps in Edo State. But thank you very much for joining us on the newsroom. Hopefully, we'll have you some other time.
It was a pleasure.
All right, and of course, that will be our cue to wrap up today's edition of the newsroom. I've had fun doing this, at least this part of the conversation with Aghogho. And of course, we also talked about the tragedy that took place in Port Harcourt. To keep giving you all of those updates in our subsequent news bulletin. My name is Ufuoma Egbamuno. Aghogho has done this with me, and would have a special report coming your way very soon after we come back from this break.
99.3 Nigeria Info. We are more than just radio. Subscribe to our YouTube channel at Nigeria Info FM. Check us out on Facebook at Nigeria Info 99.3. Follow us on Twitter at Nigeria Info FM and on Instagram at Nigeria Info FM Lagos for live updates as it happens. 99.3 Nigeria Info. Let's talk.